Welcome, I'm Maria Shanks, and for today's Biology 20 lesson, we're going to cover General Outcome 1, where students will explain the constant flow of energy through the biosphere and ecosystem, explain the structure of ecosystem trophic levels using models such as food chains and food webs, and explain that science and technology have both intended and unintended consequences for humans and the environment. I'd also like to take a second to include Indigenous perspectives that are part of Biology 20. In this case, we should draw attention to developing the concept of humankind's connectivity to the natural world and foster an appreciation for the importance of caring for the environment. Based on our previous practice done with visualization, where I first walked you through how I visualize text as I read, we then followed that up by discussing different aspects of visualization to help with creating vivid and informational pictures. For example, we consider both the biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem. Now, I want you to close your eyes and visualize an underwater ecosystem as I read this short passage to you. The Great Barrier Reef, a complex of coral reefs, shoals, and islets in the Pacific Ocean off the northeastern coast of Australia, is the longest and largest reef complex in the world. The reef actually consists of some 2,100 individual reefs and some 800 fringing reefs formed around islands or bordering coastlines. The water environment of the Great Barrier Reef is formed by the surface water layer of the southwestern Pacific Ocean. The reef waters show little seasonal variation. Surface water temperature is high, ranging from 21 to 28 degrees Celsius. The waters are generally crystal clear with submarine features clearly visible at depths of 100 feet. Forms of life include at least 450 species of hard coral, as well as anemones, sponges, worms, gastropods, lobsters, crayfish, prawns, and crabs. More than 1,500 species of fish and other vertebrates inhabit the reef. Some of the most common fish include wrasses, damselfish, triggerfish, and angelfish. The larger species include rays and sharks. The reef is also home to 6 of the 7 known species of sea turtles, more than a dozen sea snakes, and nearly 24 species of birds. The reef's health, however, is threatened by multiple factors including high levels of tourism, petroleum drilling, and coral bleaching. Coral bleaching, or the whitening of the coral skeleton, caused by a breakdown of the coral symbiosis with algae, is caused by extremely low tides, pollution, or too much sunlight, but is mainly caused by climate change warming the ocean's temperatures. Now, I want you to tell me everything you can about the picture you created in your mind as I read that passage to you. And together, we're going to make a list of some of the organisms that you visualized and saw. Great. I'm going to show you a few photos of the different organisms we listed, and I want you to start thinking about the relationships they have with one another. Okay, but it might still be difficult to decide how all these organisms fit in relation to one another still. So let's create a word map together to see what kind of connections we can make. Okay, so this is our word map or semantic map, and it's going to be a visual representation of all the knowledge and experiences we have with our concept. So we're going to put our concept term in the middle. We're going to use the word ecosystems. And then together, we're going to brainstorm a bunch of subtopics related to ecosystems. Then we're going to connect the subtopics with lines. The topics we have chosen are decomposers, biodiversity, organisms, nutrients, predators, and energy. And then our third step is going to be to brainstorm specific vocabulary or ideas related to each of the subtopics. For example, under decomposers, we have words like fungi. Under nutrients, we have words like carbon, and under predators, we have ideas like consumes prey and top of the food chain. Typically, when we learn about ecosystems, we focus on animals and plants, but we also have to consider where humans fit in and what our impacts are on the environment. The good, like species conservation and rehabilitation, and the not so good, like pollution. So, as we learn about how organisms in ecosystems interact with one another, we have to remember to include ourselves and our impacts as it greatly affects how food chains and food webs function. We can be a crucial part of a healthy, functioning ecosystem, and with that in mind, we're going to dive into learning about food chains.